One of my favorite things about Starfield is the shipbuilding, and I've had a lot of fun working with it, which is why today I feel comfortable enough to talk about shipbuilding in Starfield. We'll cover the basics as well as ship requirements and little tricks that you can use to make various incompatible parts fit together. So if you do find this video helpful, please do hit the thumbs up, and why not join me on stream at twitch.tv/Totalxclipse, as every day this week I plan to be covering Starfield both on YouTube and there. Now before we get started, the ship system isn't perfect. If you start building a ship and you can't finish the ship, you'll have to undo all your hard work, as there's no save in progress system, which in my opinion there should be. Secondly, you may have a bug which says ship modules are not attached when they are. If this is the case, again you'll have to undo all the work that's been done, as there isn't an option to focus on or remove non-attached parts. That being said, it is a very impressive modularized system, allowing you to slot together the perfect ship, and I'm excited to see what may be realized with it, from DLC in the future to the amazing modding community around Bethesda games. And this ship that we're currently in is what we're going to be building in this video, so I hope you like the look of it. Now, in order to work on your ship, you can either go to a spaceport and speak to someone and buy a ship, or you can go to a normal ship technician and say, I'd like to view and modify my ships. This is the one that allows us to actually work on our ship. We'll now be able to view the ships that we have in our fleet. Here's one that I've just bought for the purpose of this video. When you're working on a ship, you cannot buy a plot for a ship and then start putting together all the components. You either have to clicking B here to the ship builder, you either have to add new components on and off to the ship, or we can delete everything that we have here and start from scratch. Why Bethesda doesn't add a build a new ship option is really beyond me, but hey, we're going to work with what we've got, not what we want. Let's cover the basic controls. We're going to zoom out using the mouse wheel to give us a good view here, and we can also hold the middle mouse button down the mouse wheel and then drag the mouse to give us perspective here. And we can also use right click to rotate around this. With that in mind, we're going to start building. When it comes to building our ship, the first thing that we need to be aware of are ship classes. There are 3 classes of ship in Starfield. We have A-class ships, B-class ships, and C-class ships. And these are based on the class reactor that they have. So here we have the reactors tab. We open this by pressing G, and if we look over in this section here, this letter dictates, or also over here by the class, dictates what class equipment this is. So this is a class A reactor. Here we have a B class reactor, and here these large ones are C-class reactors. Now that we've placed down our B-class reactor, you can see here, if we go to add a new module, let's have a look at the other ones. We can first flip through the list of modules by pressing Q or T. And if we go across to the shields module, you can see that we have a A-class. This is probably the best way of doing it, actually. An A-class shield generator. When it comes to equipment classes, you can attach any module that is the same class as your reactor or lower. For example, an A or B class shield generator will work on a B class reactor, but a C class shield generator will not work. Another thing I should mention, you will see these grayed out. This is because they are linked to various skills which I haven't unlocked yet. As you can see, if we look down here, we have Starship Design Rank 1 to unlock this. That doesn't mean that you can't use these. If you capture a ship with these on, you can still use that ship's equipment, but you can't buy them without those ranks in that particular skill. Another thing to mention before we get too far into it, if we go to structure, there are various structural pieces that you can have. Notice how these are Deimos, and we also have Nova here. There are various other ship brands that you can find within the game which have different looks about them. You'll need to go to different ship builders in order to have them, whether that's at their shipyards or a different dock. Currently we're at the Den, and these are the only ones that are available. So if you're looking for something that looks a little bit different, you need to explore a little bit. Okay, so we have our reactor. The next thing that we want to really do is to purchase our bay, which should be just here. These are the entrance points to the ship when they've landed on a planet or a moon, for example. So we can grab this one here, and we can also press Z in order to flip certain modules, not all, but some of the modules around. So we're going to do that here. This green box means that it is against the floor. It needs to be green. If it's red, you're going to have to fix this. And the reason that this may be red, for example, if we place this here, if we grab ourselves a gear here that is quite large, like this one, it's double the height, you'll notice that this is green, but this one is red. You need the landing gear to be at the same height as the bays. So remove that for now. So at this point, we are able to drag and drop various modules to our ship. They can attach to anywhere that has a connection. Like there. We can also lift this up. Now you'll notice that we can't place this on top, even though this is a connection. This is because this is a square connection and this is a round connection. So various connections can only be made to various items. The next thing that we're going to do is add another module. Let's go with the habs this time. The habs offer to specialize the interior look of your ship, but these do offer various things. For example, the science lab will have the research bench available, the workshop benches. So you have to pick what you want, or if you do it like me, I just pick everything to make the ship feel like it's actually a living, breathing ship. So I try to add as many suitable modules as possible. Oh, and while we're here, I should also mention there is a length limit. So if we click this, you'll notice that we're at 33 meters. If we add another piece, like so, oh, that's another thing. You can copy and paste pieces, providing it's a piece that the dealer has. And to do this, you just need to hold down Control, and you can see in the bottom there's a G to duplicate. But if we look here, this is 45 meters long, and if we go to the flight check, it's going to say that the ship size exceeds the max length, width, or height. I've not exceeded the width or height maximum before, but I have the length. The max length is 40 meters, so do be aware of that. We can adjust, we can change this simply by pressing space and then using the left and right keys. And you can see just here that it's changing. So let's go with the engineering bay. At this point, what else do we need to add to the ship? Well, at the bare minimum, your reactor, a grav drive of some description. This is what will allow you to jump. We're also going to need landing gears. You can see here in the bottom, we have mass, and that's red. This means that you need to have a landing gear. I'm going to place this down. We've already mentioned you can flip parts by pressing Z, but you can also go up and down the pane by clicking F, as you can see here, or R. And this is now on the right height. You'll also notice that the mass is now blue. This means that it's good to go. The landing gear supports up to 200 weight, 200 mass. So if you have a ship that's below 200 mass, you can get away with just having the one, though it may look a little weird. If you have a ship of up to 400 mass, then you'll need 2, 800, 4, 1,600, 8, for example. By the way, if you are finding this video helpful, please do hit the thumbs up. It really does help the video reach a larger audience and help me with the algorithm, given this isn't my niche. A quick tip that I have for you here, if you have your cursor over a slot, you can press G. You do not need to click the slot. Do not click the slot, but you can press G, and from here, we can see what modules will attach to that particular piece. Also, if you're not happy with something, we can hold Control and click the two parts and drag them away so that we can get to the lower pieces, and we can do the same, bringing them back. So just hold left Control and then click what you want to move. This is also the same if you're wanting to paint your ship. You can left click all the items that you want to paint all at once, press J, and from here we can change the color of all of them, should you wish. The next thing that we should talk about is the cockpit. So if we press G here and we run across, we have various cockpits that we can use. You can place a single cockpit for your ship. Just be aware of the viewing angle from the glass pane. Some of them aren't that good, so I definitely choose one with more of a viewing angle unless you're going for a specific look. Let's have a look at the next thing that we're going to need to add, which are engines. So we have a selection of engines for us. One thing to point out is that the smaller the engine, it doesn't necessarily dictate the speed of the ship. So you can't see the speed here, but if we look down here, we have a top speed of 150 with these engines. However, if we go for a larger engine, such as these two, though they look cool, they do reduce the top speed to 140. So if you're looking for a faster ship, you may want to use just smaller engines. So it would seem I'm missing a recording at this point, which is where I talk about the adding of fuel tanks. Fuel tanks are the capacity of fuel that your ship has to use for jump. So the more tanks that you have available, or the more capacity for fuel, the further in theory you can jump. I also, in this clip, I'm just talking about using the flight check and how you should be checking for any errors as you go, because you can't finish or save the build without everything being okay. Once you have all those components, you are ready to go, although I do recommend having a shield generator and weapons, but they aren't necessary. At this point, I've started a time lapse of a build that I'm going to do, and it's going to be a freight orientated ship that's more for aesthetics than it is actually for design purposes. I'm going to pause it every now and then and talk about some tips, because there are things that perhaps you didn't know that you might find useful. If you do enjoy this time lapse, please do let me know in the comments below, because it's the first time doing this. Yeah, enjoy. So the first thing that I do when designing a ship is to block out the habs. I want to know where my walkways are going to be, and then I'm going to build off of that, try and get the right shape in mind so that I can start sculpting it how I want it to. This inevitably means that I start off with the hull, the cockpit and the engine areas, and then build from there. By the way, if you do want to see me building some ships, I do stream over on twitch.tv. I will be immediately after this premiere, and it would be great to see you over there. Oh, and if you are enjoying this, please do hit the thumbs up. Here's another tip for you. I'm just going to grab a single piece. We're going to delete this after, but it's really important. You see this here? We can't place this over, but it would look pretty cool if we could, right? So what we can do with certain pieces like this, and it takes a bit of fiddling about, but if we swap the variant, and it will allow us to place it. So there you are. That is a quick little tip that I think you may find very useful if you're doing interesting shaped builds like this. It doesn't work for everything though. There are only a few limited applications for it, but as you can see here, we're just going to change it over and voila. When it comes to building at the moment, I think my biggest difficulty is the nose. I would like more half variants rather than full modules to play around with, because I can't get it to sculpt the way that I want. And obviously we do need more build pieces. Hopefully that will come with mods or with DLC in the future. But at this point, it really comes down to smoothing out any of the rough edges for me, working the finer details, whilst also keeping in mind any of the other pieces of equipment that we do need to attach to the ship. So our transport ship is starting to come together, and I've just been looking at weapons, and I quite like the idea of adding maybe some turrets to this, but we're lacking space unless we run them across the top. One thing I did want to point out though, if we go to structures, we have these horizon, goodness me, weapon mounts, and from here we can add weapons to these. In fact, I think I prefer them to having the big weapons just at the front, hidden away. We're just about to finish with the design and ready to paint and name the ship. But with it being more about aesthetics, we're using cannons here, which are terribly inefficient because their speciality of doing damage against the hull is their weakness. This is because you need to use extra slots for lasers to do damage to shields, and you're spreading power between multiple slots. If possible, I highly recommend using missile launchers or particle weapons, as they do equal damage to shield and hull, maximizing your damage output. At this point we have our ship, and you can see we have one error here. Looking at the flight check, the last thing is the unassigned weapons. So all you need to do here is assign the weapon to its slot, which we've done. We do have 2 extra unassigned slots, so it's going to come up with a warning, but you can only attach one type of weapon here. Next thing we want to do is just quickly go over coloring in our little ship here. So the way that I'm going to do this is highlight the main parts of the ship that we want one color. Okay, let's start off with that, and we've done control click to highlight multiple pieces, and then we're going to press J, and from here we can choose how we want this to look. Maybe something really bright. That's quite a nice orange. For a second color, we can change this. Let's make it quite dark, maybe go with a dark gray. And then we also have the option to do a third color. Not all modules, such as the storage here, will have a third color available. Sometimes it's just a single color. So what I'm trying to do is to keep with the general theme and maybe just pick out some elements as different colors here. And I think this turquoise works really well against the orange. And also, given that we have these storage units as blue, which we can't change, this kind of merges quite well together. I am pretty happy with that. The next thing that we need to do is naming the ship. Now, in order to do that, go to flight check, and then if you look down here, it says rename ship. You can then press G and rename it. There is a slight problem. It doesn't seem to save the names at the moment. Let's just call it Aurora in that case. And we can confirm, not by pressing E, but by clicking it here. And then in theory, we can just tab and accept. However, oh, it saved the name. That's the first time it's ever done that. But guys, there we are. This is the Aurora. I hope you enjoyed this build. If you're wondering what to watch next, why not check out my perfect starter ship for 15,000 credits. And as always, special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Solarclipse patrons, James Owen, Firefless and Trebor, as well as our Lunars, the Calamity Ben, Star and That Dude AW, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is the City Rat. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.